That seems like a nice stable use of, nice stable ladder.
Safety first.
I'm really impressed that this thing is still standing.
Yeah, it's seen some stuff.
It really has, eh? Hey everyone, it's Brittany here with Green Bee Flowers. If you are new to our channel, we are a 5th year, 2.5 acre cut flower farm and boutique floral shop located in small town Southwestern Ontario, Canada. You can support our channel by liking our content and subscribing. If you would like more flower farming content, please consider becoming a member of our channel. Proceeds from memberships help to support our farm and family directly. It's like every year. It's been a really long time since I've posted. I wanted to kind of just get some of 2024 out of the way first. I have a lot of like backfill footage that I took and had full intentions of making videos, but I think the reality is that I get into September and October every year when we have like, so this year, past year, we had 16 weddings in like 7 weeks, which was insane. And I will not be doing that this year. So I get really busy and I think that I get overwhelmed and I set really unrealistic goals for myself, and so I forget to post, and then we get into Christmas and then all of a sudden it's January and we're ready to start the farm again. So here we are back for 2025. I just wanted to do a video with you guys to welcome you back for the season, and we're going to do some seeding tonight. Got some Delphiniums to seed today, so I thought we would do that together and just have a little bit of a chitty chat while we do this, because I think I want to be a little bit more just real and kind of like heart to heart on my channel this year. I want to do more with the channel besides just, I think, the flower farm. So we are going to be, I think, sharing a little bit more of like the other things that I do and beyond just the business. And we are going to grow some really beautiful flowers together. We're going to see the flower farm, but it's going to be less informative and more of a diary, I think. So if you're into that and you want to tag along, appreciate that. I'm going to do some soil blocking here. So because I know that this question is going to get asked, we don't do anything fancy for our soil blocks. Yesterday my soil blocks were too wet, and so today I had a couple that came apart, but essentially fill up a big thing of dirt. It's not rocket science. We do some potting soil, some peat moss, and a little bit of vermiculite in our potting mix, and that's kind of it. It's what do we do? Like 1 Tim Hortons coffee can of vermiculite for every like 3 of each of the other ones, and so there's like 7 coffee cans total. And for those of you who aren't from Canada, this is the size of a Tim Hortons coffee can. Every time I could drink better coffee, I know this, but we save all these. We use these for seeds, we use this for dirt, we use this for everything. This is like one of my staple farm tools, which is really funny to me. We use a ton of those for seeding. Seed starter here. Now it's really not, you know, rocket science, I guess. It's been a while since I've done one of these. Basically, you just fill the holes. That's it. That's all we're doing. I wanted to just say that I'm really sorry for not posting. As far as the business goes, Green Bee's doing well. Our shop is still open. We're doing all right. I know that parts of the flower world, and I don't think ours is excluded from this, have been hit really hard by just general recession and, you know, the uncertainty that I think is the incoming world in North America. I think that we're going to see a huge shift back into local flowers again that we haven't really seen probably since the pandemic. I don't know what YouTube's blocking these days as far as words. And so I'm hopeful going into 2025. You're going to see new faces on the channel this year. That is to say, we've got brand new staff working with us this year. We have changed, I think. I talk about this on the channel a little bit, is the fact that I think flower growing, especially those who are field growing in where I am in Southwestern Ontario, right? Like, it's changing for us because our climate in the Great Lakes is changing. And so kind of as we're thinking about going into this upcoming year, we are cutting down. We're cutting down on a lot of our like super heat loving summer annuals and focusing more on the side seasons, especially spring, for a bunch of different reasons. The first is that I would concur, if you're, you know, part of the flower farm universe on YouTube here, I would actually concur with what Phaedra talked about on her channel with regards to dahlias. So I'm not unicorning dahlias this year. I don't even know if I'm going to be selling them in our online store. I think we're just going to move them through the shop as kind of like a bulk grab what you want sort of system, because the dahlia hype really is at the grower level, less and less at the like retail level. So like, I will grow the varieties en masse that I know I'm going to be able to sell to wholesale and in the store, which means a lot of those like really special varieties, I'm gonna be cutting those out. We're gonna be growing a lot of tried and trues this year, and because of the way our summers are changing, dahlias are blooming later and later, which means that other than like Sweet Natalie, the Boom Boom Whites, the like the Coralies, and probably the Cafe au Laits, some of the Linda's babies, but even then I'm seeing a lot less peach come in for the fall for this year, for weddings. I'm gonna be growing my tried and true for Thanksgiving, right? Because Thanksgiving here in Canada is in October. It's prime dahlia season for us because we are getting later and later frosts, and that means I'm not going to be, I think, propagating nearly as much. I'm taking a hard line on my dahlias this year, man. If they're not surviving, they're not worth it for me. Our best bloomers in the field by far were Boom Boom Whites this year. Our Cornells were sad, and I think part of that is because they needed to be fed a lot more than they were. And because the changeover of staff happened in the middle of the summer, they just kind of got away from us and we didn't get a chance to get everything weeded out the way we would have preferred to do that earlier in the season. And so the dahlias really took a hit last year. And until they can prove to me that they're worth it to have on the farm, I'm really gonna take a hard line. I'm probably not gonna be growing 75 varieties anymore. I'm gonna keep the ones that I know move, the ones that I know are gonna hold a base life, and we're gonna get rid of the rest. It just, 2025 is not the year for FAFO, right? We all know what that acronym means. It's not the year to try all the new things. We want to make sure we're making decisions that are going to be working for the farm and are going to be profitable for the farm in the long term. And as I'm talking, I'm realizing I'm not doing my math properly. Now that does mean that I am increasing one crop significantly, and that, actually two crops. There's two crops I'm growing this year that we are growing a lot more of. It's not ranunculus. So we are vastly increasing the amount of Lizzieanthus that we grow. It was by far the most exciting, the most profitable, the longest lasting, and like the flower we had the best response to from everybody, our customers, our wholesalers, everybody. So Lizzieanthus, I'm adding, last year we grew the, I think, white, the Roseanne brown, and then we grew the like champagne colored varieties. This year we are growing a couple different lavenders, the purple, the black pearl from Johnny's, as well as the champagne, the First Love variety. But I just think that it is a crop that I can sell for a better price than a dahlia. Even though it's finicky to start from seed, it is no worse than trying to store dahlia tubers, wake them up, propagate them, plant them, mess around with them. And so for me, Lizzieanthus is, it's the next like it flower for me, right? Like we've gone through a few years of everybody getting really pumped about ranunculus, and now we are seeing kind of a shift in that happen, where I think, especially where I'm from here in Canada, we're seeing a huge shift towards like heirloom mums, and also Lizzieanthus. Most of the growers that I know order plugs. That's fine. I am stubborn, so I like to continue to seed them, and I think there's something kind of gratifying in that. There's nothing wrong with ordering plugs. I enjoy the process of seeding Lizzieanthus. They're tiny seeds, they're really finicky, and I kind of feel like a superhero when they bloom. Now, the next one we're increasing, so this one's really funny to me because 2 years ago we didn't grow any of this flower, and then this year we are bringing it back hugely, if you would like to quote the orangutan. We are going to be growing so many Snapdragons. Now, because of the climate that we're in, focusing primarily on the Costa series for the spring and then the Potomac series for the summer. I know that there's a lot of popularity around the double ruffles of like the Chantilly series, and that's great, but it's just, I don't love them. They don't get like really stocky for me. They just kind of get really flimsy, and so they're not a super useful stem for me in the flower shop. And right, the whole point of this is that I would like the farm primarily to subsidize, provide flowers for the shop. That is in fact the point of what we are doing. So Snapdragons is honestly one of the ones that I'm adding in. We are growing probably 2,000 Snapdragon plants this year. The wonderful thing about Snapdragons for us is that they have a really long growing season because of the length, just the extensions on the season on either end. So this year when we were growing the Snapdragons, we were getting our first blooms out of the greenhouse like May, kind of late May, along with some of the ranunculus. And then we were still picking Snapdragons out of the greenhouse well into December. Same thing with anemones. So this past year, we didn't actually dig up the anemones. I don't need the Lizzie planting instructions. We did not dig up the anemones. we left them in the greenhouse and let them do their thing, and currently they are just covered with some frost cloth, living their best life. So I think that's what I'm going to try and do with the anemones, is we're going to work on perennializing them into the greenhouse. We do have a second greenhouse going up. So that is going to house Snapdragons. It's going to house Nigella, Bupleurum, stock this year we're adding to the farm. It's going to house more ranunculus. We are also going to be doing a planting of ranunculus outside again. That was actually really nice to have the supplementary blooms like in June, but we are going to have to get shade cloth over those earlier. We're going to be using, I think, a lot more like low tunneling at the farm this year, just so that you know, we can get some of our stuff in the ground a little earlier. As I'm filming this right now, it's like the 18th of July, and 18th of July, we are like 2 days out from like a very intense polar vortex coming through. And like, I think earlier in my growing years, I would have been so much more concerned about that, but now, because of where I am kind of, you know, in like my skill levels, and I guess like watching the seasons, like it's gonna be like 2 degrees again on Thursday. There's snow, everything's insulated. Like, I'm not worried about any of my like tender biennials, things like the feverfew and the, actually I wouldn't mind if it would kill some of my foxglove. Things like that, I'm not as worried about them as I think I would have been in years past, and that's just from, I think, understanding the ebb and flow of, you know, some of the winters in Canada. Keeping an eye this year on how the last frost seasons, right? Because one of the things with the Farmer's Almanac is that it changed the growing zone we're technically in. And so where we used to be in 6B, we're in 6A, which is a difference of like a few degrees. And it means that our last frost, even though technically it's supposed to be mid-May, seems to be coming more like the first week of May. And then we're not getting last frost, or I guess first frost of the fall, until really the end of October almost. Which again provides just so much fun when we have to like dig up the dahlias and immediately plant the tulips. And so like, really great initiative on behalf of one of our volunteer workers and one of my new staff that worked really hard for a solid week to get all of those dahlias out and all those tubers in. It's and not the tubers, the bulbs, we knew what we meant, the tulips in. This year we are not doing any tulips inside the house. I need to spend some time thinking about tulips in the future. I need to spend some time, I think, thinking about some of those cold weather crops. Where this year is going to be an interesting year. We're gonna see how things like the incoming potential tariffs kind of shift the flower industry in Canada, especially where I am, which is like very close to the US border. I think it'll help us make, I think, some educated decisions in the coming years as to where we're going to focus our energies, essentially. The challenge, I think, the last 2 years with tulips has been that the weather has warmed up so fast that the tulips have bloomed really quickly. Last year Easter fell too early. This year, at least, Easter's the right time of year, so I'm hoping to see more tulips move. And realistically, tulips are not an incredibly profitable crop for us. We actually do take a loss on them, but it's a crop that gets people excited about flower season again. And I think some of that's just going to, I'm gonna have to think about how I market some of the flower sales going into this year, and just how we're gonna get rid of the flowers. And Isabella's down here. She is aging. So she's gonna hang out, but she's gonna be mad when she has to go back up the stairs. Okay, I'm gonna zoom you guys down a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Now, this past year, so I'm gonna preface this by saying currently I'm working on seeding Delphinium. We have 2 varieties that we're putting in, the Magic Fountains Cherry Blossom and the Guardian Lavender. Now, the reason we're seeding these, I have three solid rows, two-ish solid rows of delphinium at the farm. We got a heat wave, right? I think I've probably posted that back in like May or June. We got a heat wave that like pushed all of our peonies, all of the like early spring perennials, I guess early summer perennials, super early. So what I've realized is that I need to have way more delphinium than I do. And because last year blue and peach was like, and I know flowers kind of run in trends, this past year that kind of like peach and baby blue was like one of everybody's favorite wedding palettes, and the price of delphinium in Canada was astronomical. I laughed actually because I was watching a Instagram reel or a Facebook reel, TikTok, I can't remember what it was, a couple days ago, from Cone Flower Designs, I think. She's down Texas or Florida. Anyways, she was paying $1.60 a stem American for delphinium. And I am up here in Canada, and in the height of the delphinium craze in the middle of the summer when everybody wanted it and nobody could get blue flowers, oh my goodness, the cost of delphinium here wholesale was like $2.80 Canadian a stem, which is crazy for a stem of delphinium. Larkspur wasn't much better, and Tweedia, periwinkle, cornflower, like I was moving so many blue flowers through the wholesalers, and I think in part we're gonna see that again this year because last fall, last winter, last spring and summer was pollen season on Bridgerton. And you may laugh and think that this doesn't matter, but the requests that I have had coming in this year for blues and yellows for some of our wedding work is actually comical. We also have one that's going to be hot pink, which I'm really excited about. And so that means in brain, I need to put in more blue flowers this year. So we actually are also growing Chinese forget-me-nots at the farm. But the biggest thing I wanted to do was incorporate kind of that beautiful, like light blue delphinium, and then the kind of like purpley blue delphinium. They're the hardest varieties to get at wholesale. And so I ordered them from Johnny's, and we've got about 50 seeds of each because realistically that's what's going in that section and I cannot fit any more. Label, label, label. Now this year it's very easy. We have on the stick the name, the quantity, the date it was seeded. And each side is on my tray is for a different variety. So this one I'm just taping to the top. We move these sticks into the, when they get up potted, so we know what's in the tray. Last year, I think we just dumped them in here. This year, I'm actually putting them on the side that they're on. So it's easier to tell later what's what. Done a lot of work this past fall into the winter to kind of organize and streamline a lot of our like Excel sheets and our spreadsheets so that it's really easy going forward for staff to figure out what needs to be done and where things need to be go or where things need to go. Part of this year, we really need to create an actual map on the farm so that it's very easy to recognize where things are, to write down the different, properly write down the different successions. I've noticed in the past couple of years having some of our like younger students that have been working, things have just kind of all gotten thrown in at the same time. And I actually have a feeling that might have been part of the reason why some of my floret zinnias had such a hard time last year, is because they didn't get planted out at the correct time. And they were not happy about that specifically. So we're working really hard to kind of amend, and by we, I mean like myself and my team are working really hard to kind of amend some of those issues going into this year. There was just some like necessary, I think, administrative changes that need to happen. I'm really bad with note taking, and so I'm hoping that as I go through this, it's going to make things a lot easier going forward so that we know kind of what everything is and where to find it and when the successions went in and who planted the succession and who weeded the things and when the things got weeded, right? Now on that topic, we, and by we I mean like the team, or me, I guess, one of the things I'm hoping to do is share just, you know, some other parts of the things that I do. So I, for instance, behind me here, I don't know if you can kind of see towards the back, but I sew. And not only that, I actually sew leather. I have two very hefty industrial sewing machines back there. Long before I was farming flowers, I actually was kind of running a home business where I was making handbags, bags, wallets, things like that. As we are starting to migrate some of the farm tasks, so things like this year we're not going to be seeding most of our annuals here. They're going to be seeded, where did that go? I don't know. We're not going to be seeding most of our annuals here. They're actually going to be seeded in the greenhouses at the farm. Things like the zinnias and the straw flower and the marigolds and celosia and all of those, like those annuals that all those annuals that require like a lot of space to do. We are moving them out of our basement grow room this year, which is really exciting because for the past couple of years we've all gathered here every year to like seed together. And as I'm slowly wanting my home back and the business out of the house, it's given me spaces to do things that I enjoy again. And not that I don't enjoy flower farming, but at the end of the day, this is my job. And it is nice to have creative outlets that is outside of making bouquets, which I do a lot of that all day, every day. Now, I'm probably still going to limit the amount that you guys see Joseph. Now, I will say he's doing great. He's turning 8 this year. We are currently in the process of running a GoFundMe for him, which I'll link below as well if you're wanting to participate or donate to that. Because the reality is that he is going to be 8 years old this year. We desperately need an accessibility vehicle for him. Right now he's still being kind of lugged in and out of his car seat, and he needs an accessible van that's tailored directly to his wheelchair, which is a lot of money. And then the other thing is that we are going to need to start house renovations. In order to continue having certain types of home care in our home, we need to meet accessibility requirements for lifting him, which is going to involve putting tracks through our home on our ceilings in order for him to be like tracked in and out of bed. And so that is kind of where we're at this year. So I know that there's a lot going on in a lot of the different flower farmers' lives. I don't spend a ton of time, I think, talking about the like behind the scenes stuff that we have going on here, but that's a really fairly substantial one for us. I'll probably be doing a lot more YouTubing, so if you're enjoying all of the flowers and you would like to follow along, please like and subscribe. We really appreciate that. Now on the YouTube channel, so here's the thing, right? I want to be more committed to my YouTube channel, but I think now going into my 3rd year YouTubing, our 5th year growing, and our 2nd full year with our shop open, I'm realizing that I don't have as much time to make comprehensive, wonderful videos with all the beautiful footage and all of the wonderful videography and music and all the things that I would like to be able to do, because the reality is that I am tired. So I'm going to do the best that I can, and I think that that is really what I need to set for myself as my goal. On that note, I'm not going to disable channel memberships. But I would like you to understand, as those of you, and I'm very grateful for those of you who are supporting our channel through memberships, that supports our farm, it supports our family, and it will also support our son's accessibility needs. It's, you know, a way that you guys can support us, but I cannot guarantee that I'm going to have time to make extra videos that are members only things or do lives, because realistically I had a grand intention of doing a live last summer and that fell by the wayside. So either I need to figure out ways to schedule my timing better, or I need to really sit down and figure out kind of like what I want to do in that sense. As I was saying with regards to membership, so I'm gonna leave them on for now. Yeah, I don't know how to tackle those. It feels weird and unnatural to me to be like, hey, like, subscribe and do the membership. And I know I did like this whole fun intro thing, but that's really just, I don't know, it's not me. So we're just, I think, gonna focus on flowers and joy and life, and I'm probably not going to teach any of you guys to cook because that's not my thing. This is in no way, shape, or form a homesteading channel. In fact, I'm not good enough of a baker to try the sourdough, so that's fun. But I still want to be here for this community and I still want to show up. I've realized that those of you who have been with us and have followed us for so long, you have persevered through my YouTube neglect. And so I think my pledge for all of you this year, and I say this with bated breath because let's be real, I come into every year with very grand intentions only to have a year thrown into my face. But what I will say is that I'm going to try to my ability to show up better and more often for all of you. And sometimes the videos are going to be like this, where we just sit down and seed and have a conversation together. And maybe every once in a while I'll do these live. We shall see. We shall see. Maybe sometimes we'll sew together, and maybe sometimes we will just talk. I'm not sure yet. But I think that in order for me to persevere with the channel, it needs to change a little bit. It needs to be a little bit more encompassing of my life and not just the flower farm, although I do have appreciated that division. There's so much more, I think, to this community than just the flowers. And at no point, I think this year, and perhaps I have just, I think, both appreciated the knowledge that I have and been humbled by the knowledge that I don't over the past few months. That none of us are necessarily any better than each other. We are all at different phases of this flower journey. There's no one way to make this journey work for you. You are going to find a host of different opinions and suggestions around how to grow and do certain things from tons of different creators all over. You are going to see different things coming out of like Association of Specialty Cut Flower Farmers versus gardeners versus, you know, farmers on Instagram, and everything is a little bit different, but a lot of that is to do with the fact that our lived experiences through the flowers is also different. The purpose for why we grow the flowers is all different. Not everybody needs to turn their love of growing flowers into a full-fledged business. Part of running a business is being, I think, really intentional and not afraid to cull things when they don't meet profitability. You cannot make decisions around flowers in a business based on whether or not you like them. And so I think that as we move into this year, my goal is going to be twofold. One, we are going to look at the parts of this journey that really bring us joy and fulfillment. We're going to look at the parts of this journey that bring us beauty. We are going to understand collectively that decisions I make around my farm might be different than what you would do in your gardens, because our end goals are different. Our climates are different. Our microclimates are different. Our immediately surrounding areas are different and our clientele are different. I can tell you right off the bat, as a florist and a farmer florist, I could not use the recipes, the flower bouquet making recipes from a lot of other farmer florists on YouTube. And that is okay. I grow differently for different reasons. You know, I chuckled when I watched, actually, Coram Deo was talking about flowers they don't grow, and one of them being feverfew. And I get it, right? It's part of their climate. But for me, feverfew pays my bills during the months of May and June because it is one of my most sought after flowers at wholesale. Same thing with Orlea, same thing with Nigella. I will sell more filler to my wholesaler than I will tulips, ranunculus, anemones, etc. I can sell Florum, I can sell Orlea, Queen Anne's lace, some of those like really early beautiful spring bells of Ireland, some of those really beautiful early spring summer blooms, right? Bachelor's buttons for me is an absolutely huge one, but that's because of my climate. My customers fully expect, you know, those dainty, airy pieces in the bouquets that we make because that's part of the brand that I've developed, which is like very airy, you know, whimsical floral design. And our entire like flower farming journey has always been, you know, a both and approach to the floral industry, where I don't necessarily think that imported flowers are inherently bad. I think that there are pressures that we as the customers, so that being like the florists as the customers, need to start putting on the companies that are producing flowers and the working conditions for some of those, while also simultaneously understanding that for, you know, countries like Ecuador, the roses, carnations, the things that we're getting from Ecuador, that is one of their primary exports, right? Like, it'd be like Canada not selling lumber. No, we're not gonna do that, right? So I think that part of it is that we need to be cognizant of, you know, some of the different farms and, you know, what their working conditions are like for their laborers. Part of it is understanding, you know, pesticides, the transmission of insects from like place to place, incorporating regenerative farming practices into what we're doing here. But I don't think there's any like one approach that is specifically like better than the other. You know, we talked about this last year too on the farm, where we did end up having to spray our zinnias, right? We had a horrible powdery mildew blight come through, and also like brown spot diseases that were coming through on our zinnias. And a large part of that this past year was because it was so humid that we couldn't control the transmission of some of these funguses. And it didn't matter what we did, how much weeding we did, how much we pulled off the bottom leaves of all of the zinnias. It was transmitting to other parts of the farm. And we share our field with another farmer. There is like agricultural crops grown right next to us. And so we also have a responsibility where we are to make sure that our growing practices are not causing loss to the farmers around us. And so even though spraying isn't ideal, it is something we have to do to be a good member of our agricultural community where we are immediately right now. Flower farming will always, flowers and flower farming will always be political, which is unfortunate to have to say, but it's the truth. I got my Delphinium seeded, so now I'm just rambling. It's not going to be a super interesting channel, I think, for the next couple months. And realistically, I'm coming into Valentine's Day as well as a florist in a month from now, 3 weeks. And I'm always really tired after that. But I will say that I would like to show you guys some of the organization that we have going this year, from the different Excel sheets, the Google spreadsheets that I've set up. And if I figure out a way to properly download those and create them so that that's something you guys can like plop your information into, I think I will see if I can figure that out. I am slowly working on adding like resources to Green Bee's website. So I did a full like dahlia digging up guide that went on there, like it went on our website back in the fall. So for dividing, digging up, and storage, and recommended ways to store in different climates, essentially. And I can speak to what I know, which is, you know, Ontario, Southwestern Ontario, with our snow and our humidity and the cooler that I work in, but it's going to give you some good basic information, kind of condensed a whole bunch of stuff into one, and that is available for sale on our website as well. If you are a member of our channel, there's a coupon code in the members only notes that you can use that'll just make it free for you. Sometimes I think it's just good to have those documents from more than one type of farmer, because again, we don't all grow in the same climate, and what works for one specific farm may not work for everybody. My growing season here is very different. Actually, I would be closest in climate probably to Jessie at Bear Flower Farm, or Nicole over at Flower Hill Farm. But even then, we didn't get the snowstorm that Nicole got. So it is pretty substantially different here. So that's kind of where I'm at. I hope that you'll all take along. I think that the best I can do is just promise to show up. So if you're here for the huts and the ramblings and the thoughts and some of the pretty flowers, I will be here for that. I can't guarantee I'm going to do time lapses of us making things, because the reality, the fact of the matter is that I run a store, right? So like, not everything I do in the shop is a content creation. Sometimes it's just a task that has to get done. And it's weird setting a tripod up when we're like mass making bouquets for Saturday market in the store. And that's fine. We will kind of adjust and adapt and figure out, you know, if that works for us. But it's just an extremely strange experience to have a customer walk in while you're like talking to your cell phone to make a YouTube video. So like, it's very easy for me to show you the cool things that are growing on the farm. It's a little bit more difficult for me to like go through and do, you know, we've made all of this with the bouquet, with the flowers now. The reality is sometimes we're like cutting those and they're gone, like off to their final destinations within 12 hours. Or they're like their middle destination within 12 hours because we had to pick 6 bunches of cosmos to go to the wholesaler like the following morning, right? And I might get us picking the cosmos, but I'm not gonna get the moment where they like get wrapped up and go to the wholesaler, because it's just not practical for me to do that. So I like I said, my goal this year is to show up. You will get to see the pets, you will get to see the pretty flowers, we might even get to have some conversations about the leather work and the sewing, but ultimately I just want to say, however you found us, thank you for being here. Like I said, as I watch some of my community in other social media applications, you know, say goodbye to those communities, I realize how grateful I am to have all of you following along. And we're gonna power on, we're gonna see what comes next, and we're going to roll with it as all we do. So as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you guys, you know, found this informative, and that we had a good conversation together today. So thanks so much. Bye-bye.